Hi, everybody. My name is Nathan Kurtin. I'm the Senior Associate here with the Texas Blockchain Council. I'm sitting today with Teddy Ellison. He is currently the in-house counsel at Serotonin, which is a cryptocurrency firm here in Austin, Texas. Teddy, thank you very much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So let's just start with your background a little bit. Tell me about kind of where you're from and what got you into crypto.
Sure. Originally from Ohio. I grew up in Sandusky, Ohio, moved out to San Diego about fifth grade, went to Ohio State for undergrad, and then University of Southern California for law school. How I got into crypto. So out of the University of Southern California, I went to Latham & Watkins. I practiced there for about 5 years, and I was part of the emerging companies practice group. So we represented private companies from startup through exit, so IPO or M&A transaction, strictly corporate work. And I was part of the blockchain group there. So Latham is one of the prominent firms involved in the space.
Mm-hmm.
I was working in their New York office. And then how I got into crypto was while I was working in that blockchain group and I was part of that emerging companies practice group, I got to know Amanda Cassett really well. And Amanda Cassett is the CEO at Serotonin, which is a digital marketing firm. And basically got to know her, worked with her, helped her form Serotonin, helped her spin out another company called Mojito out of Serotonin, which is an NFT minting platform. More a technology company as opposed to the services business at Sero. And worked with her while I was at Latham, and then got to know her husband, Sam Cassett, who is, he was at Consensus. He was the chief operating officer over there, and worked with him for a while, and then eventually decided to jump ship over from Latham to Serotonin about 4 months ago.
Very cool. Very cool. And so walk us through, what does your day-to-day look like? What does that look like for you being a cryptocurrency attorney?
Yeah, it's really everything, right? I deal with the normal stuff that any company deals with. We have employee issues that come up, just day-to-day, governance, making sure everything works right, board consents, dealing with investor relations, things like that. And then on the crypto side, you do a lot of reading, you do a lot of research. Things are always changing. Mm-hmm. The regulations are always moving. So do a lot more of sort of like that reading and studying. And in terms of like what kind of issues I've been grappling with recently, it just also depends on like what entity I'm representing, because I kind of float across a variety of entities. I work for Serotonin, which is a marketing firm. The legal work tends to be a little bit lighter at that company. And then at Mojito, it's more a technology firm. We're helping big brands sell their NFTs and set up, secondary marketplaces and things like that. So in that vein, I have to deal more with like KYC issues, money regulation, money transmitter laws, mm-hmm. And things like that. Yeah.
So is it safe to say that a lot of the traditional elements of the law are kind of at play in the crypto field as well?
Yeah, no, I mean the typical like corporate governance, things like that, and then the same thing as if you're selling a physical good, right? You still have to like worry about KYC, making sure you're not selling to anyone on like an OFAC list or a sanction list. There's just different elements to it, right? You're dealing with, instead of physical good, you're dealing with a digital asset. You're dealing with these wallets. You're dealing with sometimes anonymous people that you have to transact with or figure out a way to transact with. So it's definitely a different ball game, but it's all part of the same sphere.
Very
that
cool.
Makes sense.
Absolutely. And as I'm sure you're very well aware, there's been a few pieces of legislation that have come out recently, kind of trying to, I guess, regulate crypto and blockchain, and I guess define it a little bit further. What are your thoughts on some of these new bills and laws that are being introduced?
Yeah, so I think it was about a week ago. I think it was last week when they came out with that proposal to go in front of Congress mm-hmm. with sort of a bill and it looked a lot sort of like they were going to start regulating crypto, specifically stable coins, in more of like kind of like you regulate a bank, right? Some of those financing regulations. And it's interesting, right? But I'm encouraged by it because we hadn't had that for a long time. And sort of the current administration was very sort of abstract in their advice or lacking of advice altogether. Mm-hmm. And they were more reactionary than sort of setting up a framework for people to follow. So while some of the regulations are, going to make things more difficult or, make sure that we're going through the right hoops to make sure everything's working correctly and there's going to be a finer lens, looking at the crypto community, I still think it's a good step to at least start setting those guardrails and start talking about, open up the conversation, as opposed to kind of what's been going on in the last year to 2 years.
Definitely. And we've got a chance to talk to some of the people in the finance side of all this. And from what we can kind of assess is that there's just so much uncertainty. It's kind of difficult for some banks and financial institutions to want to put big money into this because, like you said, there's not really a framework.
Yeah.
But certainly I think that having that framework is going to be beneficial long-term for sure.
Yeah.
So as far as, blockchain laws go, is there anything that you would like to see maybe introduced, or anything that that you've kind of been maybe struggling with that you would like some assistance with from a legislative perspective? Or
I think just continuing to get more guidance from the SEC. I think Gensler and his organization could provide more feedback, have a more open dialogue with companies, and then they've made sounds like they're trying to do that, but in practice, it doesn't seem like that has been the case. So I would encourage them to kind of be more transparent on what they want and what they're looking for, so people can kind of try and follow the rules instead of guessing what they want to do and what they don't, and then waiting for someone to kind of misstep and then coming down with a hammer on them, which I think has kind of been, for better or for worse, what's been happening.
Yeah, certainly. And I know that the SEC plans to double their crypto staff in 2022, and again, doubling in 2023. So, getting the manpower is something that they definitely need.
No, I agree. I think that will be helpful. But again, I hope they use that manpower to like set guardrails and be sort of an advisory part of the government, as opposed to sort of, policing people, because that's not really what the SEC is there
More
for.
proactive rather than reactive.
You're there to set regulations. You're not there to, get people in trouble. You're there to set guidelines, and then if people go outside those guidelines, then yes, they should be punished. But you have to set the framework first.
Absolutely. And framework is what's going to guide the businesses and hopefully make that investment a little bit safer. Going forward.
For sure.
Is there anything else that you have that you would like to discuss? Anything else that comes to mind when we talk about blockchain and digital asset laws that maybe you've been thinking about?
No, it's an interesting, area of the law. It's a fun area of the law to be in. It's moving very much, There's obviously, like I said, the KYC, KYT stuff that you have to worry about. There's custody issues, there's payments issues, and like how that's also a very interesting area, sort of talking about, how are companies going to be able to incentivize their employees with crypto and other types of assets. And that's another thing that we're working on at Serotonin. Recently spun out a company called Franklin, which is going to be a blockchain payroll Web3 company that we're really excited about and think has a lot of promise. So it'll be cool.
Absolutely. This is a question that we've been asking a lot of folks, but outside of cryptocurrency and NFTs, what are your thoughts on blockchain applications?
My thoughts are, I have an interesting one, and it's not necessarily outside of crypto and NFTs. It ties back to NFTs, but I thought it was particularly interesting, so I'll say it. I was just talking yesterday, I believe, with our CEO at Mojito, Rocky Miller, and we were kind of talking about sort of, you hear a lot about like token gated merchandise, right? If you have an NFT token, you can kind of get into events or get merchandise for certain things. And an interesting flip on that we've been kind of talking about and thinking about is sort of this, merchandise gated tokens, right? Where you can kind of buy merchandise or buy a good from someone and then get an NFT as part of that purchase. And it doesn't have to necessarily be packaged together. It can be something else. It can be a drop, an email that you get where you get a free NFT, and that will allow brands to kind of better monitor their customer base, right? And you have all that publicly available information, and it also allows brands not only to monitor their own customers, but also monitor customers of other brands that are similar, right? So if you're, say you're Adidas and you have NFTs and you want to look at Nike's NFTs and see what their customers look like, that's all publicly available. So I just thought that was an interesting flip, a really creative thought by her. So.
Absolutely, yeah. To enhance customer engagement and brand engagement and everything else. It's definitely a creative creative application to the blockchain.
For sure.
Well, thank you so much for coming out, Teddy. Really appreciate your time, sir.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much.